fact is this, the facts are these, that look, since 2002 to today, that's in 10 years, we've lost almost 800 people in plane crashes in this country. Okay, I can list all the crashes for you if you like, but that is a fact. We've lost 800 people approximately in this period of 10 years. That is not a record to be proud of. As a matter of fact, it constitutes a world record. I've done the research. In peacetime, that no country in the history of humanity has lost as many people in 10 years to domestic plane crashes, as Nigeria has. If you want to spread it out, you're talking about approximately just under 100, about to say 90 people a year from plane crashes, which is an awful thing to say. It's a terrible way to put it, but let's put things clearly in their perspective, then we know the kind of problem that we're facing. It's not a new problem. It's something that was with us before, and it's something that's still with us today. By the grace of God, when we came in, the first crash was in 2002, then 2005, between 2005 and 2006, there were five more crashes in 1 year. Okay? That alone took 453 people. The previous one in 2002 took about 150 lives. And we came in 2006. We came into an emergency situation, people dying, low morale, and so on and so forth. So we took drastic measures, and we went there with what I would call military precision and discipline, no tolerating any nonsense at all, and we made everybody sit up, knowing that we had a major problem on our hands. And I had prayed to God that let there be not one drop of blood shed, or one drop of blood will flow under my watch. And we worked extremely hard to ensure that. So throughout our period, we worked hard. And by the grace of God, there were no crashes. We left office in 2007. I came in 2006. We left office in 2007. A few months after that, things started degenerating again. A year later, another crash. There were 7 crashes between 2007 when we left up till today. 7 in which people lost their lives. So these are just the basic facts. Okay? I'm a spiritual man, and I'm assuring you that the crashes that took place, that is the 1 year between 2005 and 2006, 5 in 1 year, was a very spiritual issue. And the secret of our success was the fact that throughout that period, we had people praying 24 hours. We had prayer chains throughout my tenure, throughout this country. Prayer chains. My staff will confirm it. In fact, people felt I had turned the airports into churches. I had people praying at every airport, every major airport. 24-hour prayer chains. I'd have at least 6 people there. I had people praying through the air. Oh yes. And it worked. It's a spiritual problem. And there are people behind this problem who somehow share some pagan beliefs that the shedding of human blood brings money, brings power, and brings wealth. I'm saying to you as a believer that there was definitely a spiritual aspect to this because it was bizarre. The occurrences were bizarre. In my view, there has always been, at least since 2002, and certainly when I came in, there was a blood cult operation in the Ministry of Aviation. There are some people that are very strange. Not just people within the ministry, but some within the ministry covered them. There are some people from outside the ministry who are in the power game that were interested. I have been saying this since 2008, and nobody has deemed it fit to do their own investigations on it. I mean, why should I be the only person speaking? Since 2008, Senate Aviation Committee public hearing. I'm sure you must have heard of that. I'm sure you may have been there. There's nothing I'm saying that's new. I spoke about the cartel. I spoke about the blood cult. I spoke about the fact that some people do some very strange things. I spoke about the fact that we needed to fight these people in order to bring sanity to the sector. People do all kinds of strange things. There are some things that I will not mention to anybody that I'll take to my grave that I saw when I was a minister, not just at aviation, even at culture and tourism, that go on at the highest levels of this country. I will take those things to my grave. I believe they've come back. And let me just tell you this. You'll be surprised.
Yeah.
The sort of things some of these people say. Look, listen, don't look at the pattern of behavior. Look at the impunity. How do you explain the fact that, for example, in the Sosoliso crash, my predecessor in office said that he would not see anybody that did not lose more than two children from the families of those that lost their children? How do you explain that? How do you explain that level of insensitivity and callousness? That unless you lost 3 children or more, don't even come to me. Okay? How do you explain the fact that this thing keeps going on and on and on? Nobody is removed. No minister is removed for a period of time. I fear. No, and I'm not casting aspersions on anybody. I'm sorry, I haven't mentioned. You know me, if I want to discuss about an individual, I'll mention the name and I'll hit. I don't fear anybody. I only fear God. Okay? But this is not the time for that. I'm speaking only out of concern. And I'm saying that it seems very strange to me that you set up a committee made up of people who were, you know, part of ADC airline, for example, which in itself had a crash which was very questionable. Okay? People who were kicked out of office, the former DG of NCAA, who was sacked by President Obasanjo because of the crashes from before. These are the people you bring together to put on a committee to investigate the latest crash. I mean, for goodness sake. For goodness sake. And then you sideline Accident Investigation Bureau, having removed the head of Accident Investigation Bureau a few months, a year or so ago, and said he shouldn't come back. What does that tell you? Now, let me tell you my fear. My fear is this. If we're not careful, this will simply signify the beginning of another cycle. Now, I haven't said I want that, God forbid. Because this is human blood. It could be the blood of anybody. It could be the blood of anybody. But my fear for Nigerians today, and for this country today, is that we may have got back to that situation where the cycle has begun again. As it did in 2005, where it has got so bad and people just don't care. There's not enough strength from the top, seriousness from the top. And people are more concerned about awarding refurbishment contracts than providing safety for Nigerian travelers. That is from the ministry's end. And then airline operators are more concerned about their profits rather than safety. If we're back to that, then we are likely to witness more crashes in this country. I pray I'm wrong. But I say this only for one reason, not to create panic and fear, but to try to encourage the authorities, the Honourable Minister and her team, her staff, her DGs, to sit up. Even the airline operators, to ensure that it doesn't come to that. But that's my fear. What happened in that crash? Nigerians seem to have forgotten. If it had been one of their own children, they wouldn't forget so easily. 60 children. Apart from Pastor Bimbo Dukwai and so many other good people on that flight. Okay? 60 children. And what happened? For some reason, the pilot landed in bad weather. Again, well, they say against the advice of the control tower. He landed. Something happened. He hit a curb. And there was an accident. Fine. Fair enough. But the fact of the matter is this. Those children and those people did not die from the effects of the landing and the hitting of the curb. They died from something very simple and something very clear. Fire. There was a fire on the plane as a consequence of that. And when the fire started, there was plenty of time for them to be evacuated and for them to be saved. But the problem was this. There was no water in the hydrant system, in the fire engines at the airport. And who was responsible to supply that? Contracts had been awarded. But there was for some mysterious reason, on that very day, there was no water available. So the families had to watch their relatives, the parents watched their own children being burnt alive on that crash. Well, obviously there's negligence, on the part of the airline operators. Negligence or lack of seriousness on the part of the regulators within the ministry. A level of, this desire to make profit, even, at the risk of lives by cutting corners and so on and so forth. Lack of good leadership in the ministry. Lack of good investigation after a crash has taken place, because if you know that nobody's going to investigate you, then you may as well take risks, you know, and you know you can get away with it. And also corruption, because a lot of money will pass hands to cover things up, and so on and so forth. These are all the causes. Most important of all is lack of good quality leadership at the ministry itself, right at the top. You need to have strong, focused leadership there, you know, and people need to be pushed in, you know, forced in line to ensure that the right things are done. In other words, you first of all unleash hell on them. You fight them into the ground. You put them into their place. And at that point, when they've had enough, they will now sue for peace.